Welcome to Sharp Corporation's walkthrough of the new version 18 desktop application by 3CX. Today we're going to talk you through the main functions and features of the softphone. Starting in the top left corner, we have the People's tab, also referred to as the Teams tab in some versions of the software. From this view, you will get full transparency across the phone system of who is available to take a call, indicated by the green light next to their extension card, showing that they're available, or other users may have set themselves to away or do not disturb mode, indicating that they're not available to take a call for whatever reason. In the top right hand corner, we have a groups drop down where we can filter the visibility on the screen here between a certain department or a certain branch, for example looking at just the Auckland users at the moment, or we might go to a favorites group where we have some internal contacts within the business that we talk to often and we might want to turn them into a favorite. We can do that by hovering over their extension card, going to the star, clicking on that, making it gold, and that adds them to the favorites group. We can also have external contacts in the phone system that we can bring into this view. So by toggling the top left personal contacts button, you can see that both Bob and Joe are now visible on this view. They've been added in from my phone book so that I can call them easily from this location if I want. If we hover over a particular extension card, we can get more details about the extension by clicking on them, and that will tell us their email address or their mobile phone number, etc. But if we want to make a call to the extension, we can do that by simply hovering over the various icons. We can call them clicking on the phone icon. We might get into a video call if they're using the desktop app as well. We could chat to them. We can add them as a favorite or see if they're in a call queue. If we've got some appropriate permissions, we might get some additional options here on the drop down. Specifically relevant for administrators or managers, you may be able to set the status of someone else's extension on their behalf. For example, a staff member may have gone home sick for the day. You could set them to do not disturb. They could have a personal message loaded that says they're home sick, and the business gets full transparency that way. We can search for users by typing in a text entry in the top search bar to make a phone call, or we can just type in a phone number. The phone number may match with a contact or an extension already loaded into the phone system. We can bring up the dialer from the top right icon, and we can do the same thing there where we can search for a text entry, or we can type in a phone number and make a call directly out of the dialer as well. Or again, we may want to call someone who's not in the phone system as such. We can type their phone number there, click on the green button at the bottom or press enter, and that will launch a call out to them. So we'll go ahead and make a call to an internal extension. We'll call our internal Christchurch extension 304. As you can see, solid yellow is the initiating party, blinking yellow is the one that's getting called, and that's how that would look if someone was on the phone. Additional options here for an inbound call. We've now got extension 303 calling us internally, and we're going to answer the call by clicking on the green button or pushing the enter key on the keyboard, and that will take us into an active call state where additional options are now available to handle that call. So starting in the top left hand corner, we have the ability to put the user on hold. This may be a situation where you want to talk to someone, one of your colleagues next to you. When you put the user on hold, they will hear a hold music, whether that's the default hold music for the phone system or whether that's a custom promotional music that your business may have created. You could play that to your customers and suppliers while they're on hold. Similar to hold, we also have the ability to put the caller on mute. Now the mute option, they won't hear any hold music, but they will still allow you to talk to a colleague, gather some additional information for them, and then when you're ready to return back to the call, you can unmute them and continue speaking accordingly. Next option is a new call. Now this might be a situation where you want to call a colleague or call someone externally to ask them a question while you put the caller on hold. So to do that, we just click on the new call icon and we search for the person or type in an external phone number that we want to talk to while we put that caller on hold. And you'll get transparency here of both calls. You'll see that the one highlighted is the one that you're currently talking to or listening to, and then the other user is on hold in the background. On this instance, we've actually reached the Auckland reception voicemail, which is why it's not shown above with a yellow call icon, because they're technically not on an active call. It's gone to their voicemail and I'm talking to them there. So I can go ahead and hang up on Auckland reception's voicemail. It'll take me back to 303, my original caller. They were on hold, so we're going to take them off hold, and now we're talking to them with the information that we've received. Similar to the new call option, we have the option to have a three-way conference. Now that would be a similar situation to the new call, but in this instance all three parties would be talking to each other and having a discussion on the fly. So we can type in a search value there for a text entry or a mobile phone number or any other external number. We call the external person, and when they answer the call, we automatically initiate into a conference suite. So we see here extension 700, conference place, shows us that we are now in a conference call and all three people can talk to each other. If we wanted to get a further visibility or further handling functions, we can click on the conference button again, and this will take us to the conference suite where we can see the three people that are on the call. We could hang up on one of the people if we wanted to drop them out of the call or put them on mute, etc. But to continue on with the call handling, in this example, we will flip back and we will hang up on this conference and we will initiate a new inbound call. Extension 303 calling us again, so we answer the call and we'll continue on with the other functions. Specifically now into transferring a call. On the left, blind transfer, on the right is an attended transfer. So a blind transfer is a simple transfer where you just want to send the caller to someone else and you don't want to speak to them first. So you would click on the button, you would then search for an extension value or an external caller, and you would push them out to that extension from there. And as soon as that call is connected, it'll just disappear from your view. Again, in this instance, the call to Auckland reception 906 has gone to voicemail, hence why they're not yellow above. So let's trigger in another inbound call. Click on the green button again here to pick the call up. Attended transfer on the right allows us to make a transfer to a third party, but we get to talk to them first this time. So we get to ask them if they are available to take the call, and we can then provide a slightly nicer experience, if you like, for the recipient on the other end before we transfer the call. So we click on that attended transfer, and same logic again, we can put a text entry in there or a phone number, and we click on Barry again in this instance, and we are initiating an external call on a separate line to Barry. When Barry picks up the call, we'll be talking to him as we are at the moment. The caller is on hold behind us in this instance, and we're talking to Barry. And we're asking Barry whether he's available for this user, for this caller to get transferred over to him. If we wanted to join the calls, we just click the join button now in the middle, and that will merge the two together. But in this instance, so we can carry on with the other buttons, we will hang up this call and say that Barry wasn't available to take the call. We might want to maybe take a message for the other party, and we'll flick back to the other caller by hanging up on Barry. So we'll click on the red button, we'll click resume because extension 303 is on hold at that time, and now we're talking back to 303 explaining that Barry wasn't available to take a call, and we move on. Next option is to record a phone call. This is permissions based, but most users would have the ability to click the record button and initiate a recording. Depending on your permissions, you will be able to see the recording files that we'll touch on later. For administrators or managers, you may be able to see all recordings across the entire organization or across a particular department. keypad. We use the keypad if during an active call you may need to input a number value. You may have had a menu system where it's asked you to click 1 for a particular department and 2 for this, etc., etc., or for any other reason you need to enter a number during an active call. To return, we click bottom right on the arrow, takes us back to our active call functions where we're left with the video call option. So this might be a user who's also got the 3CX desktop application, or they might have the mobility application on their phone and they could have a video call with you in real time by clicking on that button to do so. We'll end this call and move on to some additional options now, specifically how to set the status of your extension so you can flick between colors of your extension to show people whether you're available, do not disturb, etc. So you do that from the top left avatar, you choose the option you want, click on the pen, and that will bring up a pop-up box. You can put a custom message in there. So when you set yourself to that status, people will now see the custom message associated to it. Each one of these colors has a forwarding rule where you can divert calls and handle calls based on the option you choose, which we'll cover shortly. Now moving on to the chat tab, which is underneath the people's tab, we can have direct chat conversation with an individual or a group of extensions on the phone system. You can search for the person you want to chat with, or you can just pick them from the drop-down list. Once you've selected the person you want to chat with, you can enter a text conversation by putting some text inputs in the box at the bottom there, just like you would in any other normal text or chat environment. The dialogue and transcript will be kept here for future reference. You can share attachments also in this environment as another way to collaborate with team members. In the top right corner, we have some additional options there. We can add additional participants to the chat for a group chat. We can call the person we're chatting with, video call them, archive the chat, or delete the chat. So this environment's quite handy and just another way to engage with your colleagues. Moving on to the Meet tab, which is the conferencing area for 3CX. You can host audio and video conferences from this environment or schedule them for the future. So we click on the plus icon top left, and here we are presented with various audio, video and webinar options to either do a session now or to schedule something for the future. So we'll go ahead, we'll do video and we'll schedule something for the future. We pick a date value, a time, a duration. The duration doesn't matter too much in 3CX. It's only there for the calendar invite purposes. There is no time limit on the video conference like you may have experienced in other applications. You put a subject line in and some notes for the participants, and in the bottom drop down you will select the calendar environment that you want to invite these participants from. And once you do that, you'll then go ahead and click on the Create Meeting button, and that will launch the calendar environment that you've chosen for you to enter in the participants there, and it will send them out a meeting invite, just like any other calendar invite. They'll get a link, and they can click on that link to join the meeting from their browser. They don't need to download an application. It's very easy and makes it simple for people who are part of 3CX or even external to 3CX to join a conference. Alternatively, the icon to the right of the plus button allows you to launch a quick meeting. So that might be a situation where you want to have a video session right now. You don't want to have to send out a calendar invite, etc., and you just want to share a link with someone. You'll set your webcam and microphone and speaker options here, and then you'll click on the Join Now option. Join Now button will take you into a live video conference session, and you'll be prompted from a pop-up at this point, which will give you a public link to join this video conference. Once you've got the link, you can share it through chat or email with the participant that you want, and they'll click on that link. It'll take them to through their browser, and they'll join you in this live session. In the top right hand menu, you have a bunch of additional options there, such as being able to toggle your camera on and off, turn your microphone on and off, share or present content. chat with the participants, raise your hand for a question, see the various participants that are in the session, add additional participants on the fly. You can record the video conference. You've got some additional options here to set your microphone and headset, which are important features if you are struggling with any audio setting issues. Make sure you come here and check those. And we end the conference top right with the red button. And out we go. Now that same button that we used for the quick meeting is also used as a toggle to take us to any scheduled conferences. So if you've got anything booked here for the future, you can toggle on that button and you'll see them all presented in front of you. We'll now move on to the Calls tab, which gives us a detailed call history on any incoming, outgoing, missed or abandoned calls from our extension. We can filter the view from the top right drop down, selecting the view of calls that we want to see. And when we hover over any particular call, we have three options to either call them back, chat, or delete the call by using the respective icon next to the call entry. Okay, and now we move on to the panel tab or the switchboard view. So this is an area where you can get transparency of all active calls across the phone system. So it's an area where a receptionist or an agent in a queue may spend a lot of time. We've got an incoming call here from 303 that we've answered, and you can see the way it's represented on the screen in front of you there, that it's different than how it would normally look on the people's view. We can see the caller and the callee and the duration of the call. If they are in a specific queue that's picked up this call. I'm going to go ahead and create a new call on the second line, an outbound call now to another extension, just to get a bit more data there on the screen in front of us, and you can get an idea of how that might look. So now we can see an outbound call from extension 953, calling out to Auckland reception 906. Again, duration of the call shown there as well. So yeah, receptionists, queue agents, call centers, those types of people will spend more time in this area, and they'll get more details here. As you can see on the callee column of the second call I made, it's gone to voicemail, which is quite handy and just gives us a bit more transparency of what's going on across the phone system. Now, depending on the permissions you've got, if you are a queue manager, you can actually drill down into deeper levels of queue management here, where you might want to just see queue calls, or you might want to see the calls of a specific queue, and by doing so it also allows you to manage the extensions or the agents that are logged into that queue by clicking on the logged in, logged out hyperlink. Either log in or log out an agent from the queue, providing they have the appropriate status set. So just keep in mind that certain statuses will prevent an agent from being logged into a queue. In that instance, as a queue manager, you won't be able to log them in if they're not on the appropriate status that allows that functionality. At the bottom here, we have statistics that show us the sort of number of calls that have come in and things like that. We can also go to in the drop down to a wallboard, which actually gives a full statistics overview of all calls into the phone system. Average talk time and callbacks and all that sort of thing can be represented here from the wallboard. Now these statistics can be reset every evening or at a longer interval of your choice. Okay, so we're going to move now onto the more options menu, where we have contacts, voicemail, recordings, and we also have some settings. So we'll start with the contacts option. Now contacts can sometimes be represented on the left menu as its own icon, depending on the version of 3CX that you're using, but generally speaking it will reside here inside the menu. So contacts are all contacts, company contacts, personal contacts, or integrated contacts into a CRM or Microsoft 365. The two bottom options are more custom options and won't come generally standard with the system. They'll require some work from your administrator. But generally in 3CX we refer to a company contact or a personal contact. To create a new contact, we click on the plus button top left. We give them a name and phone number and whatever else we want to put in here, email address, etc. We can upload a profile image if we wanted to by clicking on the folder by the avatar. And at the bottom, if we've got the click permissions, we can either add them as a company contact, which means everyone will see them across the entire organization, or we can deselect this option and that will save them as a private contact or a personal contact. And that means that only I'm going to see the contact. In the top right hand corner, we save the contact, and now you can see that the additional contact mum has been created there. Remember, back on the people view, we can toggle the personal contacts to be represented on this view as well. As you can see now, mum is there now represented as a personal contact in the people's view. Okay, so we will head back to the more options menu, and we will get into the voicemail menu. So any new voicemails, any old voicemails, they will reside here. To get a new voicemail triggered and just talk you through the way that a new voicemail is highlighted, we will trigger an inbound call into the system. We'll let it go to voicemail and we'll see how the system represents it. So as you can see here, we've got this 021 number coming in. It's calling my DDI. I'm going to push it to voicemail by clicking the voicemail button, and that person, as you can see now on the switchboard, is now talking to my voicemail. Once they've left the message there and hang up the call, you'll see some indicators come up to say that there's some activity for me to reference. So first of all, on the calls tab, there's a little 1 there, and that's telling me that I've got a missed call. So if I click on there, it's taken me to the missed call filter, and you can see at the top there that I have got this missed call that's taken place. Secondly, there are 3 blue dots now, so the menu's highlighted blue to show there's been activity on the voicemail tab, and there's the 1 there showing that the new voicemail has come into my DDI. It shows me the caller ID and the timestamp of when the call came in, and the duration, etc. of the call. I can download this recording, I can play it back on my phone and listen to it, I can call them back, I can delete the call recording, or I can actually add them as a contact by clicking the plus button and saving them off that way. If you decide to leave the voicemail here, it's important to mark it as heard, otherwise the little blue indicator will always remain there highlighted. So at the top, we click as heard, and we can move off to the next menu item, which is recordings. Now recordings are permissions based, so not everyone will see this menu item. If it's required, talk to your administrator about how you can see this. If you are an administrator or a manager, you may be able to see all recordings. Otherwise, you'll be sitting here on the My Recordings view. You can download your recordings, play your recordings back on your phone, or call the recording back by clicking on the call icon. Last but not least, we have the settings area. Now, settings have a lot of options here. We won't touch on all of them, but we'll focus on the ones that are most relevant to most users. Here you can upload a profile photo by clicking on the folder icon, and this will change the image on the people's view. You can put your mobile phone number in here if it's not here already. You can set your language preferences and your software theme preferences from light to dark on how you want the application to look. And you can also reset your password and get the credentials resent to you in email if needed. Next, we'll focus on the audio video tab. We won't spend too much time here as this is already covered off in the installation and setup video on how to download the application and set your audio settings. But this is the area to come to make sure that your headset or your speakers and microphone are set up properly and that the call pop-up is working the right way for incoming calls. So troubleshooting, this is the place to come for audio problems. Okay, so let's move on to one of the most important tabs in this menu system, and that's status. So this is where you program your available, away, do not disturb, etc. that we touched on right at the start on the people's view. We'll go to available first. Like the other statuses, you can have a custom message here if you want to, not typically probably used for most people. Next, we want to set a timeout setting. So we're saying that if I don't answer my phone within 20 seconds, what will happen to external calls and what will happen to internal calls? We might want to divert them to our mobile phone, to voicemail. We have a whole bunch of options here in the drop downs on how we want to route these calls based on the timeout setting. Next, we're going to set settings for busy or unregistered extensions. So this might be a situation where I don't have my computer turned on, my software's closed, I might have the mobility app on my phone, and it's out of coverage. Maybe I'm in a poor area where there is no mobile data coverage in the area, and if someone tries to call me, I want to reroute the call to maybe someone else in the office. So here I can select the same settings for internal or external callers. I can even trigger it off to go to someone's voicemail by ticking on the respective box there if I so choose to do so. At the bottom, we have 3 additional options here to also ring my mobile, accept multiple calls, or accept push notifications. So let's go through each one of these one by one. Also, ring my mobile means that if someone calls my extension, so if my desktop application is ringing, or if I've got a desk phone in the office, or whatever else, that my mobile phone is going to ring at the same time over the mobile network. So this is someone calling me on my mobile phone number. This is not the mobility application ringing on my phone. This is my mobile phone's ringing over the mobile phone network in parallel to my office extension ringing on my computer or on my desk phone. Accept multiple calls is call waiting. It means that if I'm on the phone with someone else already and a second caller comes in, do I want to be able to see that call coming in and answer the call? If I choose not to have that enabled, it means that the second caller will be treated as busy. Well, I'll be treated as busy if they come into my extension and try to call me, and they'll follow the forwarding rules that I set here. In this instance, they'd get diverted to another extension. To accept push notifications, that's relevant for mobility app users that are using the 3CX mobility app on their mobile phone. That ensures that the app pushes forward to the front of their mobile phone, so they know when an inbound incoming call's coming in. So there may be certain statuses where you don't want that turned on, so that you don't want to get disturbed on your mobile phone by an incoming call. You can disable that on certain statuses as you wish. Okay, moving on to the away status. The difference with away is that there is no timer. So this is more of a hard divert option, similar to do not disturb, whereas instead of picking the 20 seconds timer, as soon as a call comes in, it's going to take effect based on the call forwarding rules here. Again, we have the option to accept push notifications or turn them off for this particular status. And at the top, we have the custom status message that we might want to write in there just to give more transparency to the organization on what it is we're doing and why it is we're away. Same logic with do not disturb. You can obviously set another custom message there as well. I'm on do not disturb at the moment, top left on red. I'm going to change that to available now. But yeah, same logic. We can set internal, external forwarding rules here. There is no timer. It's a hard divert. So next on the list, we have lunch and business trip. Now these are actually custom profiles, so you can change the name of these statuses. Not only can you put a message, but you can change the profile name to anything that you want. The lunch setting has a timer similar to the available status, where you've got the 20-second timeout, and then you can trigger off the various forwarding rules thereafter. Whereas the business trip setting is more like away and do not disturb, where there is no timer there, and it will just hard divert out. So, you know, if you were someone who maybe wanted to divert to mobile a lot, you might go and rename this business trip extension to forward to my mobile, something along those lines, and it just gives more transparency across the organization. A slightly more advanced call forwarding option is using exception rules. This is where there might be a caller ID that you want to treat differently than the typical caller. It might be an important person. You want to make sure that they always get their phone calls coming through to you and that they never end up going to voicemail or anything like that. You can put some custom rules in here to handle them however you wish. Okay, now going on to greetings, this is where you set your voicemail recordings or the prompts that you want to play to callers when they hit your voicemail. In 3CX, you can actually load a custom voice message for each of your statuses, so available and away, do not disturb. They can all have different voicemail greetings if you want them to. You can upload using the upload button if you've got a file on your computer already, or you can click on the record greeting button, which will then prompt an inbound call to come into your extension. So if we click on that button, you'll see that we're prompted to put a file name in of what we want the voicemail prompt to be called. And when we click on the OK button, an inbound call pops up from the system. We click on the green button to answer that, and we follow the prompts here to place the recording. So, hi, I'm unavailable to take your call, please leave a message, etc, etc. When we've finished, we click on the hash to complete the recording, and we then press 0 to save the recording, but just follow the prompts that tell you how to do all that. And then from there, when we want to now click on the drop down next to any particular status, you'll see our new audio file there. Our new recording can be selected. So if someone now calls me while I'm on away status and my forwarding rules say that I'm going to voicemail, they're going to hear the new custom message that I've just recorded for that. If I don't set a custom message, it'll just play the default that I've loaded at the top, and that will play against all of the statuses. Okay, going over to scan QR code. This is required for your 3CX mobility application on your mobile phone. On iPhone or Android, go to the Google Play Store or to the Apple iPhone Apple Store and download the 3CX app. Top left hand corner on the menu system there is scan QR code. If you scan the QR code, it will provision your mobility app so that you have your extension in your pocket. In the top right corner, the same option available there really to bring up the QR code if that's easier to access for you. Next tab is BLF, and that stands for Busy Lamp Field. Now, the Busy Lamp Field is what traditional desk phone users have on the right hand side of their desk phone, with a green light highlighting that someone is not on a phone call, and a red light if they are on a phone call, or a flashing red light if someone's trying to call them. Now, you can set BLFs here against your for your extension, and if you do have a desk phone, they will be provisioned across onto your desk phone. If you're just using the software itself, then they will be loaded up on the right hand side of the dialer, and you'll be able to see your various BLFs in that view. But literally, you go through here, select the option BLF on the left hand side, and then choose an external extension, an internal extension on the right hand side. You can set custom speed dials as well here on the left hand menu. That's for external people that aren't part of the phone system. And as you can see here on the dialer, if we click the right panel, that is the 4 BLFs that we've just set up. If those people were on the phone, we'd see them flashing red or solid red at this point. Or if we want to call someone, we can just simply click on the green light next to their extension, and that will create an outbound call, and we'll start calling them that way. So it just gives you a bit more functionality to initiate calls with a single click of a button from the dialer, rather than having to be on the people view to do the same thing. If you are a desk phone user and you want to populate these BLFs that you've just loaded here onto your physical desk phone, you will need to either reboot the device by powering it off and on from the unplugging the cord at the back of the phone, or going through the menu system and selecting the reboot option, or around midnight each night it will do a update. It'll re-provision itself for you, so in the morning any changes you've made here will be represented on the desk phone. And last on the list, we have hotkeys. These are just really some shortcut buttons that you can program into the keyboard on your computer to launch various parts of the application instead of you having to click on the various screen areas. So for example, I can open the dialer by using Shift-C instead of clicking on the top right hand corner icon. So by all means, set some of those if they're going to be of use to you. And that takes us really to the conclusion of the walkthrough on the version 18 desktop application. So if you have any questions from here, please circle back to your account manager or project manager on how to utilize the system. We can set up a test environment for you as well if you are a new customer getting onboarded and want to know more about the actual functionality of the system. Just reach out to us and we can assist you with that.